Black person jump scare! I remember when Tears of the Kingdom came out. It was the biggest deal to me and my #1 priority in life other than breathing. I was so hyped getting a sequel to one of my favorite games. Wind Waker's still better though. But when I look back on Tears of the Kingdom, it's usually accompanied by, oh yeah, I forgot that came out. Tears of the Kingdom has been suffering with an identity problem since before it came out. It was under fire for being the same game since the very first trailer released. There's this whole battle about if it was a true sequel, and I was on the side of the people saying the whole argument was nonsense, and I still do think that whole argument was fucking stupid. Like, just because something has the same map and art style doesn't mean it's the same experience. Like Yakuza. Yakuza fans are happy, and from what I've seen, those experiences vary a lot, but for the most part, they are all very similar games with more in common than not. Tears of the Kingdom was an insane evolution of what we got in Breath of the Wild. The world traversal felt so seamless. There was endless options to reach your destination much faster than available in Breath of the Wild, on top of there being more to explore. The map was the same, but I'd argue that it being the same aided in the exploration because it gave this sense of unfamiliarity in a familiar environment, which I loved. All the locations were the same and I knew how to get there better than I know how to get around in my own town. But when you get to your destination, nothing was the same. Each city and civilization had new life breathed into it. Even on the way to these destinations, so many things had changed. It was a pleasant surprise, because they could have easily done less. Even all those things considered, it's still forgettable. The combat was much more fluid. The weapons breaking that people had a problem with was made so much better by the fact that you can now use pretty much everything in your environment to make cool weapons, which incentivized fighting strong enemies so you could get strong weapons, making the combat loop even more enjoyable, but it was still forgettable. There was an entire underground map that was expansive and mysterious, providing countless hours of exploration, which I loved, probably my favorite part of the game, as well as a bunch of sky islands that also add more value to an already massive world. But it's still forgettable. The story was so good, and I love this interpretation of Ganondorf personally. Even though I know a lot of people thought it was mid, I loved it, but it was still forgettable. All the praise that I make about this game seems kind of meaningless when I can't even remember that the game exists without being reminded of it. I played Red Dead Redemption 2 this year, and it's been on my mind every day, multiple times a day. And it's been over a month since I finished it. Even when I'm recording this, I was just talking about 100%ing it with my friend. I still think about Resident Evil 4 Remake from time to time, and I might replay that too, honestly. It's been a while since I finished the Danganronpa series, and even that occupies some space in my mind every now and then. When I finished Tears of the Kingdom though, I kind of just moved on, and I barely thought about it since, which is strange for me. In all my life, I've never played a Zelda game and then just moved on. They've all become big parts of my life. Like, I played Ocarina of Time 4 times in a row. I played nothing but Wind Waker for half a year. I was obsessed, and I play it pretty much every year. I played A Link to the Past twice. I played Breath of the Wild non-stop when that came out, leaving no stone unturned, sinking hundreds of hours in. I 100% of the game. The only thing I didn't do was get all the Korok seeds. All of these games I revisit and think about often. Tears of the Kingdom has just been lost in the recesses of my mind. And I think a big part of it has to do with the intrinsic ties it has to Breath of the Wild. While they aren't the same game, they're linked together unlike any other game I've personally played. Bro, these puns are just rolling off the tongue. When Breath of the Wild came out, it was literally a moment in history. The time leading up to that game's release was some of the most exciting times ever. And when it came out, it was a triumph, an evolution. Breath of the Wild's reputation precedes it, and while Tears of the Kingdom had hype leading up to its release, it wasn't anywhere near on the same level. It's also nerfed by being a similar experience, to the point where I can think of Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom couldn't be further from my mind. But when I think of Tears of the Kingdom, Breath of the Wild is always right there, occupying that same space. A lot of the strong feelings I have about Tears of the Kingdom, I only feel because I've played Breath of the Wild. Tears of the Kingdom is so much better than Breath of the Wild. Since they're similar, it almost renders Breath of the Wild obsolete. Every aspect of the game you can think of, story included, was improved upon, making Tears of the Kingdom the definitive way to experience this version of Hyrule. But when I think about Breath of the Wild, what it was like to experience that for the first time and play it, it was just a much better experience. Tears of the Kingdom standalone is an amazing game, but it has no identity. Its identity is tied to a game that many, myself included, have so much more fondness and nostalgia for. And while I love Tears of the Kingdom, I don't think it'll ever be regarded in such high esteem as its predecessor, despite being better in every way. This game did everything right, but is hurt just because it's a sequel. Despite Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild's many differences, looking back, Tears of the Kingdom felt like what Nintendo wanted to do with Breath of the Wild but couldn't, almost like a do-over. I guess I can't be surprised since the earliest conception of this game was as Breath of the Wild DLC. It makes sense that the original would overshadow and occupy more memory in our minds. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. Do you agree, or is it just a me thing? I really want to know what people think of this topic because I really haven't heard a soul utter anything about this game since around the release window. Anyway, leave a like if you enjoyed the video, and as usual, have a good one.